Welcome to the people here today. And just in terms of the audience, we've got a real mixed group here of practitioners, people with a professional expertise who are currently involved in delivering the early years foundation stage curriculum and providing health and care to the UK's youngest children. And those colleagues have come here this afternoon from our rapidly increasing group of local authorities, where there are regional and local 50 Things offers in place. And they're also from local authorities, national organisations, or who are new or relatively new to the idea of 50 Things. In principle, however, what we're here today to talk about is levelling up within the context and the perspective of early years. In a sense, when trying to come up with a definition of levelling up, and the government itself, having coined the term, appears to be deeply troubled. It is, without doubt, a replacement, an evolution of the idea of social mobility. And I guess what that means is giving many more opportunities for children, young people and adults to achieve their potential in life. And I think it's focused roundly on children growing up in relative social disadvantage and in poverty. Levelling up is has a broad focus, focusing for children and young people on education, but also on health and on employment and on life chances. And while I won't be leading the contributions this afternoon, I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about some stark facts, really, that face the UK today. First of all, 1.3 million children in the UK have been born into poverty and live in poverty at the moment. 1.3 million children under 5. The chances are, of course, that these young people, these young children will go on to lead lives of poor health, low income and reduced life expectancy. And that's, chances are, this is not a deterministic journey. This is not secure and certain, but the chances are it's a probabilistic outcome that children born into poverty go on to live lives which are marked by poverty. And this is exemplified hugely within the city, within the local authority in which I live, which is has wards in it which are within the 1% most advantaged in the United Kingdom, and are also within the bottom 1% most disadvantaged in the United Kingdom. If you go on that journey in Bradford from Ilkley to a ward in South Bradford, it's a journey of about 15 miles, but it's also a journey which is reflecting a 10-year difference in life expectancy, which is also, and perhaps even more concerning, is reflecting a 20-year healthy life expectancy difference. And that's within 15 miles of each other in one local authority area. So levelling up and the relative lack of social mobility is affecting people's lives. The work that we do in the early years is saving lives and changing lives. And to continue with this rather depressing idea, and the challenge to us all at the moment is that COVID has, of course, made things much worse. This week I read on the BBC rising from 10 to 14% of children at the age of 4 are now judged to be obese, rising to 25% at the age of 11. And that's as a result of, well, continuing trends, but also as a accelerating result of COVID, and double the figures for children, obesity figures for children living in the poorest homes. COVID itself has had by far its most significant impact in terms of lost learning, has had that impact felt it in the poorest homes, and youth unemployment was most significantly affected by COVID and has been least quick to improve in the poorest areas of the United Kingdom. In the middle of all of this, we have a remarkable opportunity to act and to have an impact. And what we need to do, and I tell people, you know, on the call this afternoon, things that you know already, but early intervention is critically important if we're going to be able to make a difference to children's life chances. And I suppose early intervention which has a really broad focus on health, learning and language development. 50 Things can play and is playing a key role in making a difference in terms of social mobility, and it can in your area and is in the areas that we're working. So welcome to all this afternoon. I'm going to move on to the more formal content. Today we are talking about blending a universal and targeted approach to early years to achieve levelling up. I'm Chris Bunting, for those who've joined the call a few minutes later, and I'm Director of Bradford Birth to 19, and the organisation I lead, the team here, are responsible for the initiative called 50 Things to Do Before You're 5. It's really, really grateful to have the support of colleagues here this afternoon. Our keynote and our lead contribution, Sally Pearce, talking about delivering an early years service through local partnerships, and we have our own Andrea Lizelle here talking about professional and community support for families, and a wonderful team from the South Coast, from East Sussex, talking about providing support for families in East Sussex. 50 Things to Do Before You're 5. I've got 2 or 3 minutes now just to go through what it is. It's an initiative that's been delivered from St Edmunds Nursery School, an area in the Girlington area of central Bradford, an area of especially high socioeconomic deprivation. And it's based on and founded upon their principles of good early education and care. And it's very straightforward, intuitively very, very simple. Suggestions for parents, low cost, no cost suggestions for parents, and fun suggestions for parents of activities that they can do in their local areas. It's a multi-platform offer, localized for every region in which we work in the UK, where those local authorities get their own app, they get their website, they have their own promotional materials, and they have social media campaign support. And so for all those local authorities who are here to find out more about 50 Things, this is an offer that you can bring and roll out within your local area with our support. And 50 Things, the simple ideas that are there within our app, download it today and have a look, are there, and they support early health outcomes, language development, cognitive development, mental well-being and school readiness. And in fact, you know, those things there, that list of the things that 50 Things supports, are on the agenda of many groups of people in local areas. It's of interest to health, public health, museums and library services, the park service, to the school teams, to the early years teams. All of these play a vital role in underpinning levelling up and social mobility. The best start in life puts children on the right pathway to achieve their potential. It's fundamental. All the stuff that we hear about in terms of infant brain development, into early childhood development, suggests that those first 5 years are just of huge importance. If you're new to it, download the app and have a look. It'll tell you about the 50 things that are in the areas that we work, but those can be the areas that you can bring 50 things in and make it work for you, your families in your local area. 50 Things is now rolled out nationally. This year we've got, by the end of this year, I am hopeful that we will be in place to have an offer with 19 local authorities, considerably over 500,000 children and over 17% of England's under 5 cohort. Conversations going on with local authority areas in Scotland and Wales as well, as we try to broaden our reach. Each local authority, and we've just got some kind of like visuals there, gets their own app, their own principal resources, their own website, full of your children, your local assets, your museums, your wild spaces, your parks, your galleries, your industrial heritage, and it presented to your local communities in a way which speaks to them, not full of people who are not from around their parts. They are full of children who look like they are from the area which the app is for. It's a local resource for local families. And this offer that our local authorities are using is proving to be really, really successful, making good progress. And we have this year developed our app to give it the capacity to be able to promote events to app users. And the app also enables you to gather data around user engagement, and also with links to specific local projects as well. So there's a lot of good technology inside that app, which has now been around now for 3 years, tried, tested, reliable technology. I am at this point going to be handing over to our contributors this afternoon, and I will be around and stay in the chat and speak to colleagues later, to people on the call at the end of the session. Okay, so I'm going to be handing over to Sally now, and Sally Pearce, delivering early years services through local partnerships. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Christian. I'm just going to hopefully be able to share the screen.
That works.
Yeah, that seems to be, hopefully you can all see my screen now. So yes, thank you very much for the invitation to come and talk today about one of the projects we've worked on here in Sheffield, to use unique partnerships really for a university to deliver early years services out into the community. And you know, everything that Christian said about the inequalities that we're facing absolutely chimes with our experiences here in Sheffield. For me, you know, we talk about social mobility, we talk about levelling up. I think we should be talking about social justice in terms of the levels of inequality that we're experiencing and the growing levels of inequality. It really is an issue of social justice that we need to address. And the latest statistics showing the difference in life expectancy for a man born in Blackpool compared to a man born in Chelsea, you know, are absolutely startling, you know, with 17 years more life if you're born into an affluent community. So in terms of what we've been doing here in Sheffield, we've had a project that's been running now for 4 years called South Yorkshire Futures. And this was envisaged originally by the university. I think we were using the term social mobility at the beginning, and it was to explore, is there a role for universities in bringing together different players, different partnerships, right across the sphere of education to improve life chances for our children. And I was absolutely thrilled that they started with the 0 to 5 age group, because so often when we start to talk about life chances and we bring in the word education, we link it to starting school. And I'm sure everybody on this call today would be echoing what I'm always saying about that, those first 5 years and how much we do, not just with children, but with children and families. So our Vice-Chancellor, may be no coincidence that his wife is an early years teacher, but he envisaged it from the beginning to be with that 0 to 5 age group. And so I was charged with the role of trying to facilitate those partnerships and find out what role the local authorities and services across the region would want us to play. And this has evolved over the last 4 years into Sheffield Hallam's civic commitment. And this is something I want to alert people to, because there's so many universities now that are talking about having a civic university agreement about what is their role as an anchor institution in the communities that they serve. And Hallam in particular, as a 1992 university, draws very much from the region in terms of the student intake. So it really wants to play its part in improving things for people who come from these communities. So we have up there this sort of commitment across all age ranges, but the commitment in early years is around ensuring that all people growing up in South Yorkshire have the best start in life. both through high quality early years provision, also by supporting parents in the home learning environment, as we know that's absolutely key. Working here in a particular area of Sheffield, which is a project I'm going to tell you a bit more about, luckily this already had a budding community, as it's one of the 5 Save the Children early learning communities in the UK. And the whole of the what we call locality B, or the Burngreave ward in Sheffield, was selected for that. And it is an area that faces a lot of social and economic challenges. And what Save the Children wanted to do was bring people together to look at if we've got people working effectively and looked at whole system and evidence-based approaches, could we improve early learning outcomes? And this work had been going on for about a year when I became involved in the area. And what happened was the DFE announced a new round of school nurseries capital funding that was called the Innovation Pot. And what they wanted was to see sort of a more innovative offers of what would happen once the nursery opened, as well as just support providing the capital funding. And here in the Shirecliffe area of Sheffield, we had a school that had been desperate to reopen a children's centre nursery that closed in the first round of austerity cuts in 2011, and basically had been mothballed ever since, and there'd been no provision in this community for 2-year free early learning places. So we brought a partnership together, sort of facilitated by the university, of the local school, Save the Children, and Sheffield City Council, and we bid for the school nurseries capital funding and were successful. And at this stage, the school were going to deliver the nursery places, as happens most frequently through school nurseries capital funding. And we were there to provide some perhaps innovative practice and some research around it, but we're not really going to be taking a central role. And then COVID hit. And in this community, the school, it's an amazing school team, were at the forefront of supporting the community, but there was very little capacity to take forward the nursery development. And at that point, the university stepped in, and we already had a school nursery, we already had a university nursery on campus, and we talked to the leadership team about expanding that and actually offering to deliver the nursery places once the nursery opened, and wrapping around it an early years community research centre. And that's how the project has evolved over the last 18 months. It was a very sad building when we took it over, as you can see from some of these photographs. It had been really left to moulder for the last 10 years. It had intermittent usage. And although we got the funding to refurbish, it wasn't enough, particularly for the outside space. And there was no money at all for resources, only for sort of large items of furniture. So part of the unique partnership, we already had Save the Children involved. We had the school, we had the council who were gifting the building, but we worked through the Chamber of Commerce and Sheffield businesses together to put out a call for anyone who could help with large open-ended resources, with volunteer time to refurbish the outdoor play and provide, as you can see from some of the pictures there, things like the pallets and the tyres and the tubing, all kinds of things that we wanted the children to be able to move around freely and create their own playthrough. And that worked really well. That became one of their major projects for Sheffield businesses together. And before we opened, we had input from Henry Boots, from John Lewis, donations from other charities who collected resources. And so we were able to open in April this year. So we're very much aimed at taking to the 2-year FEL places. We weren't sure what the take-up would be, as I say, they've been a decade without any kind of provision, and we only had 4 children on the books before the nursery actually opened. But in the phrase of a quite famous film, if you build it, they will come. And within the first few days, we had parents coming to ask for places. We filled. We had 8 morning and 8 afternoon places initially up until the summer. We doubled that to 16 in September, and we're immediately full. And we've now got a waiting list. And along with probably other people on this call, we are suffering with really difficult recruitment sort of landscape at the moment in early years. We've not been able to recruit staff. And if we could, we would be expanding further now, but we're hoping to expand further in January. Now, that using the partnership to level up, if you want to use that phrase, what we've done is, say, the children have managed to attract other funders to the project. So we're now able to take children actually at their second birthday. So in terms of COVID recovery, that feels like a really important step, and one that could be mirrored through government policy if there was an appetite for that. So that those children can actually get, in some cases, almost another full term in nursery from the age of 2. We've integrated with other sort of funded groups, so we have an Explore, Play and Learn group that takes children from the age of 1, particularly those where health visitors or parents have highlighted concerns, that they now run from the new nursery so that the children can transition in a supported way into the nursery setting at 2. And alongside it, we've established the Early Years Community Research Centre and started our first research projects with practitioners about what are the skills required to really support children and families in a community like this. And the strapline for our nursery is changing lives through relationships. We see those as absolutely central, making sure that children feel psychologically and physically safe in the setting, and parents have the trust with the practitioners to open up about their lives and to really seek the support that they need. So that's one of our first research projects, and we've got some others in the pipeline. So what could work elsewhere? I mean, this is a unique local partnership, but I'm sure there's other kinds of partnerships that could be set up in other areas. And at the moment, we're quite often restricted by, when funding streams come in, that they're restricted to schools. When the school nurseries capital funding came out, we originally were going to partner with a nearby maintained nursery school, but they were not able to apply for the funding. And it may be that there's other people who could deliver the early years services in communities that are not through the school system. The other thing that could work elsewhere is engaging with the university civic plans. I mean, that's really taken off in the last 12 months, and now there's a national civic university network, each university producing its own plans about how it can support in different ways in the communities that they're based in. And that's not to say that we're being completely idealistic. We cannot escape the funding and workforce challenges in the early years. But what we can do is talk to each other about these potential solutions, what's worked for us, and share that effective practice. The other great things about universities, they come with lots and lots of students, and they can provide capacity in communities. So, for example, I've been having conversations in Sheffield about the 50 Things to Do Before You're 5 app, and whether or not our early childhood students could start to really tailor the offer in individual communities and carry out that research that we may not have the capacity to do in local authorities. We've had film interns making films about the local community and the local projects to try and get more parental involvement. So taking advantage of that university capacity is another aspect that could work elsewhere. I think I'm about to run out of time, so I'm going to stop there and pass back. Those are my contact details. I'm happy to talk to anybody about the work that we're doing. And so please do contact me if you'd like to know more. Thank you.
Sally, thanks so much for that presentation and insight into the work you're doing in that area of Sheffield. I'm going to reserve an opportunity to kind of ask questions until the very end, but if you can continue to make good use of the chat. I'm going to pass on at this moment to Andrea from Bradford Birth to 19, from the 50 Things to Do Before You're 5 home, for her contribution. Thanks so much, Sally. Andrea.
Thank you, Chris. So I'm going to see if I can be as technically adept as Sally was. Thank you so much for that. My name's Andrea Lascelles. I'm the National Project Lead for 50 Things to Do Before You're 5, and I've been working on the project since the consultation level of talking to our communities. So actually it was really important for me today to try and highlight some of the not just professional support that families are able to access, but also the support that's available and so valuable within communities. I'm going to use some footage that's been taken from our Walk, Talk, Discover and Draw, just to use as a reminder about what today is all about, and just to remember that we are talking about levelling up, and we must be determined to give every child the very best start in life, to combat that disadvantage and all the restrictions imposed on young children by the circumstances of their birth, which is hugely important. The Walk, Talk, Discover and Draw events are open to all young children and their families in the district, and it moves across all of our museum sites in an effort to be accessible to a growing number of families. I wanted to consider what we meant when we talked about levelling up, and some of the big hitters, if you will, in terms of policy and funding. Now, the Guardian article that was published in August 2021 told me that the government hasn't allocated £4.8 billion purse that will support high street regeneration, local transport projects and cultural assets, and then a second pot of money named the Towns Fund, which holds £3.6 billion, and that's being distributed across 101 areas in England, and supporting initiatives such as clean streets and turning derelict buildings into new homes, all hugely important in terms of the impact on children and families of living in a community that has value. And some areas, including Bradford, had some good news in last month's budget when it was announced. For us, we've received a £20 million grant to build plans that were in place some years ago for a new leisure centre opposite Bradford Royal Infirmary, which looks like an exciting and innovative offer, which hopefully will cross across generations and bring communities together. I also looked at what the aims of our institutions and public bodies was in terms of levelling up, and found that Public Health England have stated that they want to create a fairer society, and their priority number 5 is the best start in life, that I suspect no one on the call is going to argue with. They want to work to improve the health of babies, children and their families, to enable a happy, healthy childhood and provide the foundations of good health into adult life. And I think we all know that the work that goes on in the early years is that underpinning structure that supports communities to do better. In Berco's report, 10 years on, it enhances and tells us again and again how important communication is to children's life chances, that everyone must improve their understanding of speech, language and communication, and that we need to offer clear messages and information for parents and carers. And I think that recognises the key role that parents and extended family members play in terms of developing children's language skills. And those of you who've seen 50 Things to Do Before You're 5 will recognise that oracy is something that threads throughout all 50 of those activities, we hope in a really accessible way. Coming slightly closer to home, but still significant findings. In 2019, Born in Bradford published how important the availability of green spaces were, associated with healthier birth weight amongst babies, a reduced risk of depression amongst pregnant mothers, and improved mental well-being amongst young children. Now, for those of you who've any clue of where we're based at St Edmund's Nursery School and Children's Centre, not far out of the centre of Bradford, it's an area of some disadvantage, it's densely populated, there are limited green spaces. But Born in Bradford found that the beneficial effects of green spaces are stronger for more deprived groups. And we've got activities such as growing flowers, plants, vegetables, going on picnics, woodland wandering, water feature, grass gazing, all of these that are intended to flag up to parents and extended families and carers that actually those opportunities to go out into our beautiful countryside are hugely important. Article 31 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child talks about children having fun, and certainly 50 Thing aspires to support that aspect, that actually I certainly learn more effectively, and it's more firmly embedded in my psyche if I enjoy what I'm doing. And opening up all the myriad of possibilities that are available to very young children to develop as they grow into young people and adults needs to be offered at a really early age, so that they can see where their talents lie, see where their interests lie. So we offer happy history, hop, skip and jump, splashing in puddles, always fun, and see it live to introduce that opportunity to be exposed to cultural assets. But I was reminded of a book that I read some time ago, The Spirit Level, and managed to find this wonderful quote that I'll let you read for yourselves. But it resonates with me because I think there's all sorts of vast grants, enormous budgets, hundreds of thousands of people working to the same objective. But that final sentence of what we need is not one big revolution, but a continuous stream of small changes in a consistent direction. And I think that's something that we all need to bear in mind. And certainly when I thought about my time as a parent of two young boys with a partner who worked away a great deal, I accessed all the usual universal services from professionals like our wonderful health visitors and nursery provision that was available. I was very lucky to be able to access wonderful nursery provision not far from home. I had GP services, but the community around me supported me in avoiding a sense of isolation. That I gained from that community a sense of purpose when I was asked to set up a parent and toddler group that was absent from the community at that time. It was set up by the Parent Teacher Association, and I hadn't previously been able to volunteer for anything because I had a constant small baby on my hip, but they could go into a parent and toddler group. That community also gave me a sense of identity, something that was positive when I went from a working adult to being a stay-at-home mum, and that I developed an identity of self as opposed to just being Sam and Harry's mum. Gave me an opportunity to change my career by opening and expanding and running and getting joy and delight from the parent and toddler group. But that community also supported my sons to develop their social skills and their confidence in neighbours and community, to form trusting relationships with the chap who was on my walk home and to nursery provision with my eldest, who would allow Sam to pick just one pebble from his drive. Now, Sam's 34 and he still remembers the kindness of that chap. And I think that in itself is hugely important. I know we had a mum who spoke really articulately at the Better Start launch yesterday of Baby Week in Bradford, and she talked about her sense of isolation, particularly through COVID, which of course compounded all of those difficulties, and how important community had been to her in terms of support. Now, 50 Things strives to offer information to parents as a means to access support, and that might be because it's new information to them, or it might just be that actually they've got a baby and they're sleep deprived and they'd like easy access to information that just helps them think about what can we do today that is worthwhile and joyful. So it offers quality play opportunities at low or no cost in order that it's universally accessible. It supports families to access the outdoors by flagging up our local areas, by linking to council sites that tell you where the local woodlands are. In Bradford, we have a wonderful team behind us who promote these events, and Rachel Dennis, who works as our project officer, who works alongside Lou Sumray, who's a resident artist on Walk, Talk, Discover and Draw, which gives families who have spent so much of the last 2 years behind their own front door the opportunity to see the outdoors, to gain experiences within the museum structure, and opens up those opportunities to families who may not have thought that that was for them. We also promote the idea of families understanding the importance of physical activity for young children, and to think about children's diets by really easy activities such as going to a local market and seeing the display of different fruits, vegetables, fish that are available, and maybe lure them into trying, as well as giving them information about the amount of sugar in fizzy drinks and the benefits of good oral hygiene, but all presented in a way that we hope is really fun. Okay, now this is my final piece of footage, and it's just to accompany the fact that we want children to be able to craft their own futures, to write their own story, and without the barriers that might and often do restrict children born into economic disadvantage. We're working hard with a growing number of areas in the United Kingdom to equip every parent what they can do to give their baby, their toddler, their preschool child, the very best start in life. This clip was recorded at Cliff Castle Museum, where the children spent time outdoors, getting to know the group who were attending the 4-week schedule before entering into the museum and seeing that very small children are very welcome in our museums. And I have to say, there is the most fabulous room in Cliff Castle where shout and shh can be practiced with great glee. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that now. Thank you so much. I hope I haven't overrun, Chris, but I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you, Andrea. Inspiring stuff there. Lovely to see some the footage of the little ones. I'm now going to hand on quite swiftly, passing the ball on at pace to our wonderful colleagues on the South Coast, and we'll they're going to go. I'll just hand over to you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thanks for you.
Okay, thank you, Christian, and the Bradford team. Thank you for inviting us to talk about what we're doing in East Sussex. So my technology hopefully will work, and I will share our PowerPoint. She says, and then we'll come out of presenter view. Oh, where's it gone? No. All the controls have moved to the top of the screen. How can I get out of that now?
We promise not to look at the next slide, Julie.
It's generally okay, I think, Julie.
Are you sure? It's just that I can't see the controls now. We've gone into this mode. That's
Can you use your keyboard on your laptop?
No, it doesn't want to work. Oh, don't do this to me. Ah, there it is. It's all right, I've found it.
Okay.
Right. Can you see that now? Can you
from the beginning?
But if you press from the beginning.
No. Can you see the slide there? That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's come onto that. Let me take it off of that screen. Oh, isn't it wonderful when it works when you start out? Is that what can you see now? Can you see the first slide? Because I can see.
We can see your notes as well, or lack thereof, Julie.
Yeah. No, it won't. It doesn't want to go. It doesn't want to start from the beginning.
Can you go from current slide, Julie? Or try the display down the bottom right?
Let me come out. Let me stop sharing and go back in again.
Maybe go back in and out.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Let me turn that screen off. It worked perfectly, didn't it, when I did this originally?
It did.
From the beginning. It doesn't want to come into oh, this is so annoying. Screen.
Patricia, do you have a copy of Julie's presentation?
He has. Let me just,
yeah,
I'm nearly there.
Share it from my.
Oh, that looks good, Julie.
You got it now.
There we go. We can see it now.
Okay. That's interesting because I can
Julie.
still see the same screen, but never mind, that's fine. As long as you can see it, that's the main thing. Okay, so, well, my name's Julie Bowles. I am an early years officer for East Sussex County Council. I work in a team of early years and primary advisors, and I'm the project lead for 50 Things. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about East Sussex. If it would go on, is it going on to the next slide? Oops. Are you on the next slide?
No.
No. Oh, what is going? Oh, there we go. That's it. That should be it now. Okay. Sorry about this. So just some things about East Sussex. We're a fairly large county, but we're very rural. We have 5 districts, a population of around 500,000. Majority of people live in urban areas, with the rest living in the rural part of the county. We are sort of a county of 2 parts. We have an inner, more rural area, and then we have the coastal strip, which is where all of our major towns are. Where I guess we're quite a privileged local authority, being, you know, I feel a bit like, well, we are a privileged local authority down here in the south, although, you know, it's not as good as it could be for a lot of our families and children. In East Sussex, we have predominantly a white British population. In Hastings and Eastbourne, we have a more diverse population, and across the county, we have around 50 different languages spoken, with Polish, Portuguese, and Arabic being our you know, most popular different alternative languages to English. We do have an opportunity area in Hastings, and Hastings is in the two of the wards in Hastings are in the 1% of the most deprived, with 8 of the wards being in the 5% most deprived areas of the country, along with one area of Bexhill, which is where I live, in that area, which is where our nursery who are with us today are also situated in that deprived area of Bexhill. Unemployment in our county is generally okay, but in Hastings and Eastbourne it is above national average. We are a county with no major industries, no major transport links. We have no motorways. Our bus services, particularly in rural areas, are sparse and quite expensive. Most people have to have a car if they live in a rural area. Our train services from the north of the county go north. There's no line that comes south. So you have to go north before you can come south to get to the coast, I've discovered. So, and it can take about 3 hours, you know, just to get from one of our more northern towns down to Hastings or Eastbourne, which is crazy, you know. Yeah, as I said, we have no motorway, and only 11 miles of dual carriageway. So once you're in East Sussex, I've always said to the Bradford team, you know, they want to keep you here. They don't want you to leave because it's quite difficult to get out. We do, however, have several major growth areas in the county where we have new housing developments going ahead. A lot of those are on the edges of our more rural urban areas, and housing varies considerably in price, like it probably does across most areas of the country. But we have some extortionately expensive properties in parts of the county, alongside some very sad-looking community housing and housing association properties that could do with some TLC. So 50 Things was first sort of, brought into the county by Christians who are Hastings Opportunity Area. And I was at a meeting there with Christian and the Opportunity Area team and another senior manager. And our Opportunity Area weren't interested in anything to do with the under 5s, because our results for the under 5s are pretty good. You know, we have good EYFSP outcomes at the end of reception, and Hastings were more interested in what was going on in their schools and their primary and secondary schools for those families and children than they were for the early years. Fortunately, our senior leader that was there had the foresight to realise just
Thank you, Julie. Hello, everyone. I'm Megan. I'm the Deputy Manager based at Dragonfly's Community Nursery, and we're part of Bexel Family Collective. We opened in March this year, so we haven't been open long, but we've got on the ball and rolled with it. Today I'm going to be just talking briefly about the partnerships with our families, how we've used it in our long-term plan to reach cultural capital, how we've shared our ideas and how we've role modelled this, and how we've used our social media and Tapestry to deliver this, and also how we supported targeted families in particular. Next. From the very beginning, once a family joined, we shared a 50 Things checklist and asked families what experience they've had, and this then helps to inform us on areas to focus on with the individual family and what support that they might need to access these activities and experiences. Via Tapestry, which all our families have access to, we send out the information about the app and the social media platforms for them to access the 50 Things themselves at home if they wish. This is then role modelled by the key person and kept a record of which child has done which experiences. We have found that the 50 Things have been a really useful tool to ensure that all our children, before they go to school, have all these experiences and opportunities. Especially being in an area of deprivation, we quickly observed that a lot of our families hadn't had many of these experiences. So we found it was really important that we supported the families with the ideas and the resources to be able to reach these activities. And we use this alongside our long-term plan and our curriculum intent. What we did first of all is we divided all the 50 Things activities over the year and decided to focus on a few a month, depending on what activities fitted better into what months of the year. We then looked at one in detail over a week, starting with the activity from the 50 Things activity card sheet, We then extended this activity, providing different activity ideas, and gave the families some of these examples. And I've given some of these examples are on the screen in front of you today. So for example, we looked at number 1, get to know you. We realised lots of our children have had baby siblings recently, which opened up lots of conversations about us all being babies at one point when we were younger, and what that kind of looked like to the individual child. To encourage discussions about babies, we put together a game for the children and the parents. The game was to guess the team member from their baby photo, which went down really well. This then helped the children and the families get to know the team, especially as restrictions were still in place and we had recently opened and we had lots of new team members. We then encouraged families to bring in their own family photos for the children to look at alongside practitioners and other peers and discuss in detail. One of the other ones that went down really well was is number 10, sharing books. So each month, as part of our curriculum intent, we look at a core book in detail. One month in particular, we looked at one of our books, which was called Super Potato, and we found that this was particularly an interest for all the children. So we did lots of activities, and one of the activities that went with this was the children making their own super potato. As you can see there, they've all made their own super potatoes, which they then brought to life in the role play and the imaginary areas. We then share our activities with families via Facebook and Tapestries to support the activity ideas at home. So this extends their learning from setting to home. We design activity sheets with ideas of how to extend the 50 things tasks at home as well, and these are delivered via social media, our monthly newsletter and Tapestry. And what these do is they give activity ideas for how their parents can extend these things at home. So from our ideas that we've done at nursery, they're then extension activity ideas. What we also try to do is often video a member of staff delivering these activity ideas just to show parents how they can carry them out at home. And we find that families have really enjoyed doing these at home within their local community. And as you can see from this photo here, this is one of our young children who have taken this activity card and gone out into the local community in the summer and enjoyed exploring that activity. We have been able to support families to access these opportunities by using funding to ensure trips can happen as well, such as trips to the local library and visiting local museums. We've also put together a home learning catalogue of activity packs to support these activities which families can borrow and use at their leisure. Some resources from these packs include things like bubbles, wet weather clothing, books, sensory basket, and sort of recipe ideas that the parents can borrow and bring back and use at their leisure. We understand that not all families have access to these resources, but by lending them and giving them the opportunities, it has enabled everybody to take part, ensuring equal opportunities are in place. Thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, so there are that's our website and our Facebook page and our Instagram page. We have our resources that are available to download on our what's called C-Zone, which is part of our East Sussex website. And thank you for listening. And I'll stop sharing.
That's great, everyone. Thanks a lot for the team from the East Coast. Really, I mean, the breadth of the contributions today, research-informed policy into practice, the underpinning values and worth of 50 things being exemplified by the work being done in Bradford, and some fantastic work being done, impacting upon the outcomes of children's very young children, making a difference. That's what it's all about. This is, it's lovely to see the video footage, lovely to see so much of the range of stuff going on there, and it's lovely to see that from the north of England to the south of England too. I'm going to say thank you so much to Sally, Julie and the team, and Andrea, and for all of you coming along today. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar, which is on the 8th of December at 2 o'clock, Effective Strategies to Support Public Health in the Early Years. And I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for your time today.
And terrible jaws. I have terrible teeth. And terrible teeth.
Good, mix in, mix, mix, mix. Another bubble. Wow. Bubble. Mix, mix, mix.
Sometimes with big aces and big brown bear.
And what happened?
A big brown bear.
Tell Molly.
Big brown mouse.
Wow, that was a big jump.
Shall we do something? Oh, we could splash. Put our hand in. Oh, mixing.